Hey everyone. So today we're going to be looking at a relatively new topic to you guys, using all the same tools that we've already used, but using them in a slightly different way. We're going to be looking at sales returns and purchasers returns. Now, this is going to be a funny one to keep track of because we need to be making sure that we're understanding when someone is returning inventory from a sale to us and when we are returning inventory to someone else. So, inventory that we've purchased back to our supplier. Um, because sometimes it's not completely clear. So, I'll try to make sure that that is clear during this video. So, let's jump right in and get down to it. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the return of inventory. So, when we are looking at returning inventory, it can happen for quite a different number of reasons. So it could be because stock is damaged. It could be because it doesn't meet our specifications. For example, it could be the wrong size. It could be the wrong brand in some cases. Could even be the wrong color, or it could be just faulty. Okay. And in these cases where we return inventory, a credit note is issued. So a credit note is just a document that acknowledges that the return has happened, and in this case, an account payable may issue us a credit note when we return inventory, and we might issue a credit note when one of our accounts receivables returns inventory to us. So it can be tough to keep track of. Because the document doesn't change. We just need to make sure that we're tracking who is returning what and being really careful with our details. So let's look at recording a return to a supplier. So firstly, let's set up this situation. So first off, we'll consider this credit purchase. So we purchased 5 units for $100 each on the 1st of June 2023, and this is going to be invoice 45. And this is how we record it. Okay? So pretty simple sort of, we've purchased inventory, we have paid off, in a sense, some GST. We've reduced our GST liability, and we've promised our account payable that we'll pay them $550. But let's consider, and keep in mind that this is 8.2, let's consider that one of the units that we purchased was actually damaged. So we return it, and the cost price for us is $100. And we've been issued a credit note 14. So you can see here, we no longer owe our accounts payable for $110, including the $100 the inventory, but we also build our GST liability back up. And the reason for that is that we're no longer paying this accounts payable, that $10 of GST. Therefore, we still owe it to the government. So that's why that's reversed as well. Now, when we look at this in the general ledger, it just shows the 2 entries. So looking at the inventory account, we've got the inflow of inventory for $500, and we've got the outflow the next day. Same with our GST clearing. We are recording that we've essentially promised to pay off $50 of it, and then the next day, we still owe that to the government, so that's still in there. And our accounts payable account, you can see here we have the original amount of $550, and then over here we have $110, which is what's been returned. Okay? So this is what happens when we return things to a supplier. So we've got our purchase of goods and our return of goods. Now, it might be that we need to record a return by an accounts receivable. So in this case, it's pretty similar in that we're looking at some faulty goods, but there's a little bit more to do. So let's consider that 3 units are sold for $200 each. They have a cost price for us of $100. And this is on June 5th, invoice 91. So we record our credit sale as per normal, where we have our accounts receivable of $660 because that is the GST and the inventory that they owe us for. Obviously, credit sales of $600, GST of $60 because we now owe that to the government. But we keep in mind that we've incurred the expense of cost of sales and we've lost some inventory as a result. Now, once again, there's been a return that's occurred. So in this case, 1 unit has been returned. And what we do is actually the exact opposite of our credit sale. The only difference is instead of debiting our sales, we debit sales returns. Now, I've said in class, the reason we do this is because we don't want to diminish the amount of sales that we've earned. That's a good piece of data for us to know. It's nice for us to know how many customers we're getting and how much they're paying us. But at the same time, it's good for us to know when things are being returned to us, because this can highlight a possible quality control issue. This could highlight just poor delivery on our part. Just depends. So it's good to keep track of our sales returns as well. Once again, general ledger is just showing, in this case, the cost price of the sale return and cost price of the sale. And here's what the other part of it looks like, where we have our accounts receivable, our GST clearing, and our sales. You can see our sales doesn't diminish. Instead, what we do is we have this separate account called sales returns. And what you'll see is this is all at the selling price, and this is all at the cost price. Now, next step, looking at purchase returns and the inventory cards. So this is 8.4 in terms of our book. So when inventory is returned to a supplier, the supplier issues a credit note and that confirms that credit's granted. Now, in an exam situation, the cost price of purchases return must always be stated in one way or another. So this is when we are returning inventory that we have purchased. Okay, so let's consider the FIFO-based inventory card that we learned about in Chapter 7. So here we've got a balance of 5 pieces of stock worth $10 each, so a total of 50. And you can see here we have purchased more stock, but this time we've got a value of 12. So this is what our balance is sitting at. 5 pieces at $10 and 10 pieces at $12. And we've made a sale, a cash sale, where we've sold 8 units. We've sold all of the $10 units that have been left and 3 of the $12 units. So, once again, we're going to look at a return that's occurred. So the price of the unit is the same as what's recorded on the purchase of the 2nd of May. And that is because we don't set the value of the credit note. The supplier always sets the amount. Now, in some cases, this is going to be us. So when we look at sales returns, we will be setting the price of this credit note, and that's set through our inventory card. But in the case of purchases returns, we just need to look for what they say it's going to be valued at and record that. So in this case, we can see that we've got a credit note and they have issued it to us for $12. So that's all we record, nothing more. But looking at sales returns, when inventory is returned by an accounts receivable, so one of our customers, the reverse of FIFO is applied. Now, that might seem a little bit strange, but basically what we do is the last price that we use in the out column is the first price that we consider being returned. And then, if we keep tracking further back, we go to the next price and the next price. So let's have a look at that. So in this case, what has happened is we've got the same data as before, but now instead, someone has returned some inventory to us. Now, because this is the last value in the out column, it's the value that we use for our return. Okay? Now, as I was saying, if we have to go past this price, so beyond this 3 units, we go to the next one. So let's look at an example of that. So, as I said before, we're just going back in the same order. So we go from that $12 price to the $10 price. We're just working our way backwards. Yeah. Okay. Now, with identified cost, it's a little bit simpler. With identified cost, we just need to take the price that we've identified of the inventory being returned. FIFO doesn't come into it at all, and we just consider the price of what we sold in the first place. But usually we'll be looking at a FIFO example where we just work backwards. So if you can get that in your head, when we are selling stuff, it's FIFO, and when things are being returned, we just go backwards. Usually pretty straightforward. When we're looking at returns and things like that, it's usually a pretty straightforward process. If we're returning stock, we just do it at the value that our suppliers have said. And if we're getting a sales return, we just do the reverse, except for including our sales returns account. When it comes to the inventory cards, it's also pretty straightforward. You're just working in backwards, or you are using identified cost, which means it's stated for you. This is pretty straightforward, and whilst I have set a lot of questions for practice, keep in mind that the holidays are coming, and this is going to be a really good chance for you to practice questions that will be really similar to what's on your SAC. This is one of the major topics that is covered in the SAC, and it's also one of the reasons why I'm delaying it just a little bit, so you guys get a lot of practice in. So keep that in mind. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to get in contact with me. I might actually start using the comments section for questions and stuff, if that is going to help. But I don't monitor it very well, so we'll see how that happens. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you later. See ya!